Hey, we are live. Welcome to the Circle Leadership headquarters here in Perth, West Australia. And we are connecting to the opposite polar side of the planet. We're in, we'll call it British Columbia, I believe, Canada.
We're in Vancouver, so we are
Vancouver. We've got
literally Western
two
Australia, Western
Canadians,
Canada.
two Canadians on the polar opposite sides of the planet, here to talk to you about storytelling from the inside out. Uh, I'll get Ben to introduce himself in just a moment. But it was really cool. One of our good friends, mutual friends, Peter Turin, we'll never tell him how great he is. Pete, if you're watching this, you're okay. Not bad for an old guy. Pete, he's a keynote speaker and a coach and a performance and productivity guy in here in Australia. As I always refer to Pete, he's Australia's answer to Tony Robbins. And he said, look, Dave, you have to meet this Ben guy. The stuff that you work with your clients and the stuff that you talk about and, in your keynotes and stuff that you do, you got to speak to Ben. Like, he's just like, you guys are going to be like instant best friends. And then I said, yeah, okay, he's Canadian. I'll give him a chance. So I reached out to Ben and we had a great talk, and instantly, I think there was an instant shared mutual respect and bond for the work that we both do in the world we do. And the funny thing that we both agreed on, not funny for us, but for a lot of people, is a lot of people spend time developing their brand story, their marketing, and they create this really great narrative, and they then create it so they can speak it out to the world. But what Ben and I discovered in our conversations is we both believe that the challenge is that it's, if you really want to be able to speak it truly out into the marketplace, you first have to be able to tell your brand story inside your business. So then you can take that from the inside out to the market, rather than just saying, here's our thing, and then saying, by the way, people, this is what we're telling people our story is. The story actually starts from the characters in the story, which is the people in the organization. Mm-hmm. And so we thought, wouldn't it be really great to jump online, do a live stream, and just share some of this information and hopefully open some minds and some hearts to the fact that if you're going to be, a phenomenal storyteller for your organization, as any leader or the business should be, that needs to start inside the business. Yeah. You have to do your storytelling from the inside out. So that's what we're going to discuss today. From all parts of the world, from both ends of the planet, we're going to cover the whole globe, and we're going to cover that. And ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce you to Ben Baker, your brand marketing. And Ben, if you'd like to just share with people a little bit about yourself and your own insights, and then we'll get into some really robust dialogue around this topic.
Well, I'm excited to be on the show, Dave. So thanks for having me. I mean, we've got the North Star, we got the Southern Cross, Western Australia, Western Canada. It's one of those crazy things. I love how we were able to meet through social media, and the technology allows us to bring the world together. Shout out to Peter. Peter is the Energizer Bunny. There is no question about it. Peter is the Energizer Bunny. Anybody that meets him is just going to be infected by this man's passion. He is incredible. But give people the 50-cent tour of Ben Baker. I started off in the computer world and moved into communications and marketing about 25 years ago. I was George Clooney. I was up in the air. I was literally the guy that was on the plane 200 days a year. I was 250 days away from home, minimum, 200 days in the air. I would wake up in the morning, have no idea what town I was in, no idea where I was going next. Had to check with my secretary, had to check with the concierge at the airport to find out where I was going next. And I realized this was a divorce waiting to happen. And thankfully, the company that I was working for bought me out. I spent 6 months playing golf, having a great time, and I met by accident a guy who's in the direct mail business. And he was looking for somebody with a technical background to get into variable direct mail. I said, sure, let's have a conversation. Well, within 6 months, I was working with major casinos. I was working with food and drug companies and a lot of different CPC type brands, and having a really good time stuffing people's mailboxes full of paper. We killed a lot of trees back then. But the problem was a lot of these clients were chasing their competitors. My competitor is this, oh my God, we have to do a direct mail piece. My competitor is this, oh my God, we have to put another piece in the mail. And I said, okay, guys, we need to stop this. We need to figure out what your brand is, what your message is, who you're going after, why you're going after them, and why people care, and let somebody else chase you. And that's when we really got successful. That's when we really got successful, when we stopped chasing our competitors, when we ignored what their playbook was and created our own. Well, take that through the years. I got involved in from direct mail to email marketing, a lot of trade show development, but it's always been about brand. And about 10 years ago, I came across the idea of, you know what, there's a lot of companies spending a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort telling their story outside the brand. And you have a lot of people inside the brand who haven't got a clue what's going on. You create these wonderful initiatives, you spread them out to the world. Somebody phones and gets really excited about, the sale that's happening on such and such, and people inside the company have no idea what you're talking about. And I realized right then that there need to be people that help companies tell their story effectively, build their brand, build their culture, build change initiatives within their organization. And that's where I've been for the last 10 years.
Yeah, mate, fantastic. And thank you for sharing that. And it's really like when you're talking about that nobody has a clue inside the organization. So we do, even with initiatives, let alone the, purpose, values, vision, mission, etc. of the actual organization, but the actual fact that we've got this campaign. So we go, oh yeah, by the way, I was just calling about that ad I saw. Hey, do we have a sale on this thing at the moment? Is that happening now? Okay. Oh yeah, absolutely, no problems. How can I? It's like,
and it happens more than most people think.
Oh, I know, but it sounds funny to even say that. Yet the fact that it actually does happen, and like to me, like that's like in today's world and the way we are with communication, the ability to communicate internally, externally, as you alluded to earlier, like the ability to connect online. We should be leveraging technology that brings people together, even with distributed working. There's no reason or excuse in today's world why every single human being in your organization should not know what the heck's going on.
Exactly. I mean, I was talking to a sales team the other day and I said, so what happens when you guys get a new initiative? Well, we usually find out about it 5 to 10 days before, we get brought into some training, and then we get to, get the speeds and feeds, or we get the technical details about it, and we're expected to go out and sell this thing. I go, okay. So when does this usually happen? Well, it's usually mid-quarter. Well, how much, effort do you guys get? Almost none. They go, well, what? This is a new initiative. It says, yeah, but we're mid-quarter. We're being paid commissions quarterly. Our bonuses are being paid on this. Why would we go out and push something that we don't know, we don't trust, we don't know how it's being supported, when we already have 5 different things in the hopper that we're already talking to our customers about? Why wouldn't we go out there and sell what we know and we're comfortable with, instead of pushing something brand new that somebody just sprung on us 10 days ago?
Yeah. So like, let's get into let's go bigger picture first, and then come down into initiatives. One of the things that we help organizations develop is their narrative and their story. And so one of our things is that words form a narrative and then numbers tell the story. So we can imagine the Jeremy Irons voice of this creating this narrative of your business. And as I say to some organization, what's your once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, what's the narrative of your business? And a lot of people don't even know how to craft that or even begin that. And then, so if I don't know the narrative, how can I, backfill it with the story? And so when we talk about the narrative, for us, the ingredients that go into the organizational narrative is its purpose. So why does our business exist? What is the problem we're here to passionately solve in the world? And then we move from that to your values, which is how do we uniquely think about that problem that we're passionate about solving? And then we answer that. And then we get those things mapped out. Then we go to, well, if you've been passionately solving that problem through the lens of that unique thinking for the next 3,650 days, 10 years or more, what's the impact of that? What's the world that you see? Can you imagine a world where, and then the last piece of the narrative we help them form is their mission, is like, well, who do you need to become then to start creating that world that you see? And so we help them actually create their narrative in 66 words or less, the ability to tell everybody why your business exists, how you uniquely think about it, the world you want to create together, and the business that you're building in order to do so. And then to get all that mapped out, and then they just want to go, okay, Because Seth Godin said the future of marketing is leadership. Leadership's all about purpose, values, vision, mission. So they start speaking that out. Whereas what we challenge is, no. Hang on. You've got to get everyone to lead, live, and love it inside your business first. And then from that, speak it to the market. So when those words form the narrative, the story part is the strategy, which is going, well, how are we going, or what must be accomplished in order for us to become that organization? And then you can create this internal storytelling then for your business guys. Hey, here's why we all come to work every day. Here's how we're going to empower you to think things. And we're going to, inspire you with this big picture. And we're going to evolve as an organization like this. And then here's what that looks like. And then here's the story in line in terms of how we're going to build that together.
And I think that
when we all speak that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The words that come to mind when I tell every leader that when they're telling their story inside is, there's got to be a little voice on their shoulder that's saying, so what? Why should I care? The person that you're telling the story to, why should they care? It's not enough that you're telling the story. The person has to listen to it. They have to understand it. They have to internalize it. They have to be able to recall it and retell it on their own. Because if they can't internalize the story, if they can't sit there and say, this is what the purpose of the vision and the mission and the values of the company mean to me, and this is why they're important to me, and this is why I'm bought in, this is why I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, I'm never going to recall it, and I'm never going to retell it. And different people are motivated by different things. We can't just sit there and say, okay, I'm going to create a video, and it's going to tell everybody our mission, vision, values, and I've done it once and it's done, because 5% of the people are going to resonate with that one video. Different people are going to resonate with the message differently. Different people need to hear different things. Different people have different questions. And it needs to be an ongoing conversation, and it needs to be a conversation that is addressed and readdressed to be able to make sure that it's not even understood once, but it's verified and valued on an ongoing basis.
100% correct. And I'm glad you raised that, because one of the exercises that you need to do in your organization, if you have a very clear sense of purpose, we'll just pick that's the easy one. If you actually know the problem you're passionate about solving in the world, what the purpose of your organization is, how do you help people get that personal connection to that public sense of purpose? Because to your point, everyone will have their own reason. Let's say, this is why we all come here to do this, but why you choose to come here to do this, that's what we need to help our team understand. When we want them to, when we talk about helping people to lead, live, and love your purpose or your values, your vision and mission, is first you got to get them to fall in love with it. Then you got to help them to live it every single day through the stuff they do, then lead it by example by showing everybody else that they're doing. So simple way to, if you have your purpose really clearly defined for your organization, and this is an exercise we take people through. So to find out how to get that connection is really simple. So if we go, say, Ben, you're a part of our organization, and we've got this really, our organizations exist to help people evolve and stay relevant, right? That's what our circle leadership is all about. Why do you think that matters? So you don't have to answer this fully, but I would go to you and say, hey, Ben, why do you think our organization matters in the world today? And I'd want you to be able to tell me why you think our organization matters. And why do you think it's so important for an organization like ours to go and help other organizations evolve and stay relevant so they don't grow out of business? And then you would come up with your answer. And I'd say, cool. So Ben, considering your role in our organization, why do you think your role matters then in context to that? And then you'd be able to go, oh, yeah, well, actually, because I do this, this, and this, that's going to help with this, this, and this. And that's why my role matters. Awesome. Now, Ben, why does that matter to you? What does that say to you, say for you? How do you feel about the work that you're doing now? Why is that important to you? And then you're going to be able to go, well, hey, it makes me feel like this, knowing I contribute, whatever it makes me feel. So I'm going to be able to go, hang on, I now know why my organization matters. I know why my role matters, and I know why it matters to me. And now I'll have this personal connection to this public sense of purpose. And so do you think then I'm going to be able to come to work every day and speak with love, or go to the family barbecue and people ask me why would I do what I do? And all of a sudden I have this tremendous sense of meaning about the work that I do, because I have work that's meaningful. So I have meaningful work, and my lives that impacts my life. This is how we help people connect. Like, this is, if you got to help your people find their own connection, not tell them why they should connect to it, which is to your point.
The challenge is the differential leadership capabilities, training, values of different leaders. And you could get one leader who totally gets it.
Yep.
One leader within one department on one side of the organization that totally gets it, and
Yes.
3 that don't.
Yep.
And the problem is that when you don't have a consistent mission, vision, value, and a consistent way of getting people to understand at a leadership how to get other people involved and believe in the mission, vision, value, and believe in their role in the mission, vision, and value, it is going to break down, because people are going to sit there and say, oh, well, he's talking about this or she's talking about this, but she's not living it, or he's not living it.
Yep.
And that's where the biggest thing is inconsistency. As I tell people, your brand is only as valuable as your unhappiest employee on their worst day.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
one bad employee, and the question is, what makes that employee a bad employee, can ruin your entire brand. And the question is it because they're a surly person, that they're just an unhappy person, they're a pessimistic person? Or is it the ecosystem that they're within that's frustrating them, that's pushing them down, that is not listening to them, understanding or valuing them, is not communicating with them effectively, and is not giving them a sense of purpose?
Yeah. And that could be a chicken or egg situation too, because one could be feeding the other or the other way around, or it could be both, right? It could be a combination there of both. Is that they're a miserable person in a miserable system. You can have but I do love the fact that you pointed out that it's, when you look across your organization, you look for it's when you think about culture in general, and you turn that into a narrative to speak to the market with. Culture is what the lowest standard you're willing to expect, that you're willing to tolerate. It's not what you expect; it's what you're willing to tolerate. If you tolerate that one person or those 2 leaders out of the 3 who are not willing to, and this is why, from a leadership point of view, that if you don't lead, live, and love why you do what you do, how you think about it, the world you want to create together, and the business you're building, evolving into to start creating that, well, then you should probably find somewhere else to be. If you can't find your own connection to that, because then we have all of a sudden what I would call the blind leading the blind, or the disengaged leading the disengaged. You're never going to engage. A disengaged leader will never engage a team member.
But a lot of that comes down to the Peter principle. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that we hire and we promote people to their highest level of incompetency. And it may not be the fact that they're incompetent. It's the fact that they haven't been given the training. You are a really good marketer. You are a really good brand person. All of a sudden you became the VP of the marketing department.
Yeah.
It's a completely different skill set.
Yeah.
And you might have been completely in your element, in your pocket, within the team. You all of a sudden you get promoted, and your alignments, what your purpose is, what your vision, what you're supposed to be doing within the company completely changes. The people that were your friends are now considered people that you're responsible for, and you don't have that same ability to do what you used to do, and you may feel hand-tied. So if companies, when they promote people, are not training them up, are not giving them the mentorship, the coaching, whatever they need in order to be able to be skilled at the new position that they're in, they're going to revert to their own ways, which is going to frustrate the people below them, because they're going to micromanage, and they're not going to communicate effectively, because their job was, everybody knows this. I know this. Everybody knows this. So their job is not to think how to teach, because nobody taught them. They just did it themselves. So they're not being the person who can be a good leader to somebody else. And I think that organizations need to take a look at not only where the cancer is within the company, but what's causing the cancer. Yeah. And be honest and true about it. Is it processes? Is it systems? Is it people? Or is it a combination of the 3? And does it come from the C-suite down? Is it the way that teams are motivated? Is it the way they're compensated? Is it the way the budgets are allocated? Is it, head office versus branch office? There's so many different dynamics out there that cause mistrust, and that mistrust causes breakdown in communication. It causes people not to listen, and it leads to these silos that are being created where nobody knows what the left hand is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's, I've got a few things I want to talk about, but what I'd love to do right this minute is I'd love to get you to share with us from your perspective, like what's the step by step, if an organization, the people watching this, they go, okay, yeah, well, okay, this is all great. So how do I start telling the story from the inside out? How do I, what is the story? What story? Like you can pick any story. I mean, the process I would imagine would be the same. Is just what story you want to tell. So what give us the first 3, 4, 5 steps to really starting to drive storytelling from the inside out, from your perspective, mate.
Yeah. And it comes from the fact is are you dealing with an organization of 5 people that are in a startup? Are you dealing with 50,000 people in an organization that's 100 years old?
Let's go a company that has 100 employees that's been around for about 10 years. It's really started to map out because here's the fascinating part, because everyone's been through, obviously, the pandemic, things like that. Every business on the planet is under threat. Every business on the planet virtually has said, okay, we have to reimagine or assess our whole organization over the past 2 years. The plans, every single business plan that was written in 2019 is probably not valid.
Throw it in the garbage.
Right. So everyone's going through this. Okay, we have to reimagine our business, reimagine our future. We're going to do all that. So everyone's going through this concept, right? So we're all doing that.
Okay.
And then we need to give me from that lens.
So let's take the 100-person company that's about 10 years old.
Yep.
So we've got companies where you have people that are not part of the founding family.
Yep.
People that have come into the family that they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years into the company. They've been onboarded at different levels. They've been onboarded at different times. They've been trained by different people. So you're dealing with a situation where you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
So the first thing I do is we do what's called a storytelling audit. And we meet with different teams individually. We'll meet with the C-suite. We'll meet with the marketing team, the sales team, the ops team, maybe finance, depending where they are. May bring 2 or 3 teams together in small groups. In this group, we'd probably do it no more than 8 or 10 at a time. And we bring in a graphic recorder. Now, the graphic recorder, I don't know if you've ever seen it. They're the person who's sitting in the front of the room, and they're drawing images and telling the story visually as you're talking within the group. And the reason I do that is twofold. First of all, it's a recording of what we've talked about. And second of all, it stops the animosity within the group of, John pointing at Alice pointing at Tim, and Tim saying that says, you guys, none of you people know what you're talking about. Everybody's focused on the graphic artist and saying, no, it's not this, it's this, instead of it becoming a personal he said, she said type thing.
Yeah, beautiful.
The beautiful thing about this is you go through the exercise and you try to work with these teams over a couple hours. And where's the story? Where did we come from as an organization? When you came to the story, what was the story that you were told? And how is it different? Okay, within this group, okay, there's different things. All right, great. Let's put this all in the thing. And can we agree to this? Yep. All right. And then over 2 hours, it becomes a story. It becomes a graphic recording of where we were, where we are, how we got here, who our customers are, and where we're going and why. And what we'll do is we'll take those 8 or 10 different stories and we'll post them up in the boardroom together. And I'll never say who is marketing, who is sales, who is with it. We never put that on there, but we put it up and then we bring in the C-suite.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times, the stories don't match. They don't match. There could be things that are similar, but there could be things that are completely different. Who's our customer? Why are they important to us? The answer might be completely different, whether you're talking to finance or whether you're talking to ops.
Yeah.
And the thing is to, first of all, sit there and get people to understand that everybody in their office sees their story today as a different story. Now we do a workshop with the C-suite to sit there and say, okay, where do we want to be? And this is to understand what is the vision of the story. Where are we going as an organization? Why are we going there? As you said before, what's the promised land?
Yep.
What does achieving that promised land enable us to do that we can't do today? And what do we need to do to get there? How do we need to align people in order to be able to get there? Then we develop a new story. And that story, and what we'll do is we'll bring in people from various departments to help build that story. Because that way there's buy-in. You got one person from sales, one person from marketing, one person from ops, one person from different to come together, and we'll workshop it with a C-suite person over a couple hours. And the first thing they'll see is those original 10 boards, and we'll show everybody how different they are and say, listen, now we need to build this together. Who do we want to be as an organization? Why are things important to us? How are they going to be able to move us forward and be able to get the buy-in of the various departments? Because if you don't get buy-in early from the various departments, somebody somewhere is going to sit there and cross their arm. They're going to shake their head and they go, nope, that's not happening. And so you need to be able to look and understand who are your champions, who are your biggest detractors, and be able to get them both on board.
Yep.
You don't just want the yes people. You don't want groupthink. Right. There's a great book out there, a great philosophy called Red Team Thinking by Bryce Hoffman. And it's all about thinking of what if we were wrong? And I think that organizations need to sit there and say, what if we're wrong? What if everything that we assumed was true and assumed was right within our organization isn't? And where do we go from here? There's organizations that I've heard where they sold the company to a much larger organization. That company sent in a secret shopper and said, okay, who are you guys as a company? The company was being bought. They interviewed 150 people. They got 70 different stories.
Wow.
70.
That's crazy, eh?
So if your people don't understand who you are as an organization, how will your clients? How will your vendors? How will your vendors know how to help you best if they don't understand where you were, where you are, where you're going, and why? How will your customers become champions if they don't understand why they should be champions?
Yep.
How will your people become champions of your brand if they don't understand a single purpose and a single vision? So that's where we need to go as an organization. So there's a lot more to it, but that's the bones.
Beautiful. So do an audit. And I love the whole concept of the graphic recording, because it almost acts as I want to say a distraction, but not in a bad way, right? Because it becomes a focal point. Let's do it that. We're not worrying about each other. We're worrying about, okay, hey, we're now, and it creates forward thinking and rather than negative connotations about conversations that can happen. And I love that. And then moving into, I've just put a little journey map here. You got to understand where you are now, but then you need to go back to the origin story. Like when you look at all the, we always get the story from, like, let's say Marvel, we get the story, but then, 2 years later, we get the origin story of those characters. And then we go, well, where the future. So it's like going here, then you go backwards, then you go forward. So you need to have that origin and where we are now, where we're going. And I love the fact that you did that without the C-suite to start with, and then bringing in the C-suite to go, here's what everyone thinks. And then they're like, how connected or disconnected are we in perspectives of the story of the organization? Then obviously then taking all that, then workshopping it, which is really cool. Where do we want to be? And getting back to that going point. And then getting buy-in. And the really cool part about the buy-in with the champions and the naysayers, even when we're pulling a group of people together, we've got new clients we're kicking off with, and we always work with the leadership team, and they said, who else should we involve? And, these people love what we're doing, where we're going. I said, who doesn't, or who's struggling, who's challenged, who's not fully engaged? Let's get some of them into the room. Let's get them to participate in this process. Because every great story, and I think I just go back to even the concept of story. Every great story has the protagonist, but also has the antagonist.
That's right.
And you can't have one without the other, right? So you need to have those differing perspectives. Someone who will challenge the fact that, and to the final point you made, like maybe all this bullshit about our company that we believe to be true isn't necessarily true today. And one of the things that I think is really important for business leaders and owners to question, which they don't do enough, is what are the beliefs of our organization? Not necessarily in your values, but what are the things that we believe to be true about our business or our industry or whatever?
And are they true?
Yeah, well, the same. They may have been true at a certain time, but are they still true today? And will they still be true tomorrow? And this is no different for us as human beings, because the same thing. It's like, I always sit there and go, hang on, what do I believe to be true? I obviously got that belief because it served me a certain time, and then I hold on to that because, well, it served me and it's there to protect me, and that belief holds But then do I ever go, hang on, but is it serving me today and will it serve me tomorrow? Am I locking on things? And so organizationally, we do the same thing. Why do we believe that? Why is that? This is what I one of my little Clarisms I have, which one of the very first ones I actually wrote down, which was, isness is the death of your business.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, you don't understand. That's how it is in our business. Ben, you don't understand. That's how it is in our industry.
I got that the other day. I got a company said that we always do it this way in your industry. I go, no, that's the way you might have already done it, but is it the right way?
Yeah, that's always been done. It doesn't mean it's the right way.
Yeah.
It may have been the right way at that time, in that moment, at that thing, it may have been the right way. But is it still the right way? Is it still the best way to move forward? If you don't have that antagonist or that perspective or someone who challenges that, and, like to your point, we've got to be asking that question all the time, especially and here's why it's even more important now. If we look at where the world was, where it is today, we are in our generation's most uncertain of times.
Yes.
Right? Every generation's had its own uncertainty, but this is our generation's most uncertain of times. So predictability is out the window. Before it was like, hey, we have a 10-year cycle of this, 10-year cycle of that, 10-year cycle of that. It was fairly predictable, right? So there's limited opportunity and predictability, but there's tremendous opportunity and uncertainty. Only if we're having a mindset where we're willing to challenge and question everything, because nobody actually has a clue how it's supposed to be done anymore. So it doesn't matter how you did things or why, but this is how it is in our business, in our industry. That doesn't matter anymore.
Well, the problem is everybody in the C-suite, everybody's is a horrible word. A lot of companies in the C-suite want to keep everything close to the vest. They want to, it becomes a group thing. They sit there and go, okay, we're going to go away on a retreat somewhere and we're going to create a new mission, vision, value statement. We're going to hire someone like Ben. Ben's going to take us up to the mountain somewhere. We're going to whiteboard a whole bunch of stuff and we're going to come up with these great new mission, vision, value statements. The problem is, you're right, there was no antagonist, there was no protagonist, nobody questioned it. It was built on groupthink. It didn't have any connection to the real people that are living this on a daily basis. And 200-point font gets built into the foyer somewhere, and it's not worth the ink that prints it because nobody lives it, because nobody believes it, because they weren't part of the process.
Correct.
And we need to stop being afraid to have our own people be part of the process and to listen to people that actually may think differently than we do and listen to their perspective. You don't have to agree with them. We don't have to agree with everything that everybody says, but we need to listen to them. We need to understand them and we need to value them and sit there and say, okay, that person is giving some way out theory. Okay, this, and this part of it have some real merit. The rest of it I disagree with, but I understand it. But we can incorporate these small little things in there. That person feels listened to them. And then they buy in.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really cool because actually with this new clients we're kicking off right now, the first thing we do is to much your thing, we audit, we survey all the organization, every single person in the organization to solicit their feedback on how engaged they are in the organization and different perspectives, what they think the strengths, weakness, fundamental SWOT of things like that, whatever it is. We get every single human being in that organization's perspective on the business. Then we can take that information, then we can go away with that. Then we can start to formulate based on what we've learned and discovered from other people's perspectives, formulate all that, then bring it back to them and go, here's what we've come up with so far. What do you think? How does this make sense? Does this sound like us? Is this how we think around here? Is this how we should think around here? Is this, and getting a lot of feedback, then going and taking that again. You got to constantly close that feedback loop and keep people involved. You can get everyone involved in the beginning, but if you're not closing the feedback loop, they don't know whatever's happened with it. All of a sudden, they just get all the stuff thrown at them. Mm-hmm. Because also the danger in organizations, Ben, is you can have groupthink, but then when you have everybody in the group thinking, is you get analysis paralysis. This is why you have to be really careful about who you want to select to be a part of it. But you have to have, if you want to create an amazing story for your organization, every amazing story on the planet has an antagonist
and a protagonist. There we go.
And so we have to have those. So you have to have it in the process. It has to be part of it to actually create a compelling story that you can speak with love to the market, so the market can respond in kind to that. Otherwise, you sound your story. Otherwise, it sounds just like everybody else's story.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I'm going to take this one step back from what you said.
Yep.
At the beginning of the process, you surveyed everybody.
Yep.
The problem is most companies, especially of a certain size,
Yep.
have been surveyed to death.
Correct.
And nothing has ever happened. They've never gotten any feedback. Nothing has ever happened. Nothing has ever changed. So most people, when they see another survey, they go, "Oh God, another survey. I know exactly what they want. I'm just going to fill it out the way they want. I don't care."
Yep.
There needs to be a process before the survey happens to say, "Look, we realize we've screwed up. We realize that we've surveyed you in the past and we haven't been listening. Guess what? That's going to change. The reason why we're surveying is we're serious this time. This is exactly what we want to do. This is what, we realize that we've done before hasn't worked, and we've been living in a vacuum, and we need to have your opinions because we do it. And we promise we're going to make the full results of the survey available to everybody within 20 days. And we're going to have, within 45 days, we're going to have some ideas of what came out of this survey. And there's got to be timelines and there's got to be tangible things, because if there isn't, then nothing's going to happen. And God help you if that 30 and 45 days come through and you've done nothing, because then you've lost all credibility whatsoever.
Absolutely. And you might as well just pack up and head out, because no one's going to believe anything you ever tell them ever again anyway.
Ever again.
Yeah. And that's part of this is why we conduct the survey on behalf of the organization when we do it, and we let them know the process, and we let them know that, hey, we're the ones who are going to make sure that you get the feedback, that you get the stuff, and that, because to the point. And also when you're seeking that feedback, also the other thing is we don't want people to sit there and tell us, oh, here's what they expect us to say. We want to go in there we want the brutal truth. We want brutal honesty great, brutal honesty bad, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is. We want to know what that is. We need to know because when you talk about, where are we now? I don't want a fluffy version of where we are now. I want to know, warts and all, where are we now?
Mm-hmm.
You have to start from a position of truth. If you want to really build this amazing story and get everyone to buy into the story and feel a part of it, and a character and a play and a part of that role in that story, we got to start from the ugly truth.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I walked into a company on my first day. They were a client. We had gone from $100 million with this client to $60 million with this client in a matter of a year. The person who had been my predecessor was gone. I was taking their place to be able to make the problem. And they started saying, well, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did this and this and that, the other thing. And I turned around and I closed the door. And I said, look, I want to hear it all. And I want to hear it now. And I'm not leaving until you guys tell me everything and every problem that you have. We're going to write it on a board. We're going to prioritize it. And then we're going to go through and figure out how we're going to fix this. I'm not promising you I'm going to be able to fix everything, but I am going to listen to it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I had instant respect of everybody in the room who were furious at us as a vendor. Like an hour before, they were absolutely furious at us for the vendor. And they were ready to eat me alive.
Again, Thursday mornings.
I mean, I look at this and I go, when you're doing the surveys are great, but you need to have live sessions with real human beings.
Yes.
And don't take their names.
No.
I don't care what your name is. In fact, if you want to put your name as Mary when you're actually Bob, I could care less. Yeah. Because if anybody asks me who said that, I'm going to say, I haven't got a clue. I never asked their name.
Yeah.
I want these people to give me the God honest truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and be brutally honest and truthful about it.
Yeah. And that's that's really good, because the anonymity allows that sense of freedom to the individual as well, that they can really express themselves. And once again, no different to the survey feedback, that you have to honor that anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
And even for us, well, we know who's giving the answers, and we never tell the client who it is, but the client look at us and say, okay, hey, we've seen this, but we're not sure. Can we get some more information on that? Then we, as a third party, can go and speak to that person privately and go, hey, can you give us some more insight on that? Or are you willing to speak about this? And if not, that's fine. Can you help us to understand more so we can go back? Because this has obviously raised some alarm bells. There's obviously an issue here. We'd love to explore that further. But you have to protect and honor that if you want that truth to come out.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, it doesn't matter what story you tell. The story that you tell is that you're full of crap and you don't listen to us, and you So why should I believe any of the story you want us to buy into when you're not even listening to the story that we have to tell you?
And that's part of the story. Your actions are as much part of the story as the words that you say. If your words don't match your actions, it doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah, 100%. So let's look at this, Ben. One of the things. So the whole point of this process of storytelling inside the business and all that, for us, from our perspective, you can share yours. Is everyone talks about we need to get everybody on the same page, right, or into the same story for whatever, which is great, and we do, because what we want to do is create one voice. Now, everyone can bring their own personality, their own perspective in it, but we don't need 500 different versions of the same story told, each version told differently. We need to get people, the more consistent the story is being told, the more consistently it's being communicated internally. We get, we don't want this leader telling their perspective. No, here is our organization's story, and we have to share that with everybody, get everyone to lead, live, and love that too. It's what I call being mesmerized by it, not just memorizing it, right? You can memorize the story, but you have to be mesmerized by it. You have to feel it and embody it. And we want to get everyone on the same page with that. So we have all the narrative and the story all on one page, and the literal page of that. Then get everyone collectively to continue to speak and help people to learn how to lead, live, and love that on a regular basis. Because to us, once again, as I've already alluded to, culture then, how we think and feel about our business, if we speak that with love consistently with one voice, one strong, powerful voice, with a consistent messaging to the market. Brand, on the other hand, is how the market and consumer thinks and feels about our business. And then when we speak with love to the market, then the market can't help but respond in kind, and everyone falls in love with why we do what we do. And this is why, for me, getting that storytelling inside the business is so critical, and getting everyone on the same page, getting one voice for your business, and getting everyone to lead, live, and love that internally. And it can't help but express itself. Because no different to us as human beings, whatever's going on the inside will find a way to manifest itself on the outside. If it's all a bunch of bullshit and mixed up crap in the inside of the business, well, you're going to confuse your market. You're going to confuse your clients to the potential people you wish to serve, the people you do serve. You know what it's like. Ben, you ever been served by somebody who just loves what they're doing, where they're doing it, who they're doing it for and with? And how does that add to your experience as a consumer?
Oh, it's incredible.
Right.
But
on the flip side, though, you ever been served by somebody who doesn't love what they're doing, where they're doing, or who they're doing it with?
Yeah, 2 nights ago.
Yeah. So this is the power of that for an organization. If you want to build an amazing brand, it starts on the inside and getting your people to buy into the culture and the framework of the narrative, whatever you want to call it, of your own business, and everyone leading, living, and loving that. That's where you should be spending most of your time, because once you do that, the team will be speaking it out to the market.
And I agree with you on most points, but where I disagree with you is that the story needs to be individual. The story needs to be the nuance of the story needs to be the same. Here are the 5 general points we are trying to get across. Here are the 5 important things that we need everybody to understand. But how you tell that story, and whether and how much detail you go into that story, needs to be up to the individual. Because when people make the story their own, when they can internalize it and then they recall it and retell it in their own words, it becomes far more powerful. If it's just regurgitation of a memorized thing, or something that doesn't, it's got to come from the heart. The story has to come from the heart, and there has to be you have to mix the corporate purpose with their own personal sense of purpose. Yes. And that's what makes the story powerful, is when they can take the two, they can take, here's the corporate story, here's what it is, this is what it means to me, and this is why, and be able to push those out together. That's when the power happens. The story may not be exactly the same, but the ideas and the vision and why, where the company is and where it's going and why it's going where it's going, that thread stays throughout the entire story, no matter how many thousands of people are telling it.
Yeah, no, we are actually in violent agreement, not disagreement.
Okay, this is a good thing.
Yeah. So what I'm suggesting then is, and let me articulate it differently then, is when we've got that story, we take it in, we have to tell a story to our team. We have to tell the team the same story about the future of the organization, But as I alluded to earlier, then help each person get their own connection to that story.
Exactly.
So then they can speak that with love to the market. They don't have to speak. That's what I said about being mesmerized by it. You have to internalize it and process it. One of the things that a simple formula that we use for people is content times context equals concept.
Mm-hmm.
So the content is, here's our purpose, here's our narrative. We help the team to understand the content. Then we need to help put it into their context, not give them context for it, help them put it into their context so they can embrace the concept. So we take that content of the story and then, hey, what does that mean to you? What does that look like to you? How does that make you feel? What would that look like in play? What would you, and then help them to put, well, I would be doing this and that would be me, that. And like, okay, great. That puts it into their context. And how does that make you feel? And then they embrace the concept. And once they've embraced the concept, they own the concept, they can speak the concept that way. And I guarantee the essence of the story remains true because the content was the same into each individual's context. Everyone embraces the concept of what we're trying to do.
Because when you make people feel, you create emotional hooks.
Yeah.
And those emotional hooks give people the ability to remember salient facts far more than if there isn't an emotional hook. So when they can sit there, that relates to this, and this relates to this, and this relates to how I feel about my son, or this is how I feel about my husband or my wife or my dog or my mother or whatever, and I can understand how this relates to that, then all of a sudden they can internalize it a lot better and then be able to bring it out to the world in their own way. And you're right, we are saying that, differently, but we're saying the same thing. And I think that's where the real power of a story is when you can get 1,000 people or 10,000 people sitting there going, well, it doesn't really match with our brand story. And everybody understands exactly what it means and says, well, so why are we doing that? And all of a sudden a 3-hour meeting becomes a 10-minute meeting because people sit there and say, well, how does that relate to our brand story? Oh, I guess it doesn't. Okay, then why are we doing this? Well, maybe we shouldn't be. Okay, what should we be doing instead?
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part about it. It actually creates the decision-making filters for the business.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really cool what you alluded to there, because when a surgeon creates an incision, that's a cutting into, right? A decision, if you look at the Latin root of the word decidere, is to cut off or cut out.
Right.
So when we have the narrative story, it should help us to decide when we make a decision, it's what to say no to. It's not so much what to say yes to. It's more about what are we going to say no to? Mm-hmm. Well, that's not part of our story. So why would we do that? That's say no. And then let's say yes to our story, the things that, support our story, the characters, the things like that. And so when we make it, it creates these decision-making filters for the organization, for the individuals to be able to know what to say no to.
Yeah. There's a great story, and I don't know if this is urban legend or if this is actually a real story from Zappos, and we'll take it for what it is.
Yep.
The man calls up Zappos, and it's to somebody in customer service, and he's totally and absolutely distraught. He says, how can I help you, sir? He says, I have 15 pairs of shoes that showed up today. My wife died 3 days ago. So his wife had ordered 15 pairs of shoes. Somehow or other, heart attack, hit by a car, God knows what happened to her. She died. The customer service person said, I'm sorry. Here's an RMA. Send them back to us, no charge. We will credit the money right back to your Visa card, no problem. Not only that, the guy sat there and called a florist, got a card made up, had flowers sent to the house on behalf of Zappos, that said, we are sorry for your loss. He didn't have to go to a manager. He didn't have to go through 3 levels of approval. He didn't have to ask if this was the right thing to do. He just did it. Yeah. And it was one of those things that when you empower your people and you give them the story and they understand what your purpose, your culture, and your vision is, it enables them to make the right decisions in the moment without having to ask for 13 different layers of permission to do that, because they know what the right thing to do is.
Absolutely.
And that is one of the most powerful stories I tell from the stage.
Yes. Zappos' purpose wasn't to sell shoes.
Absolutely not.
No, like that's not why the business existed. That's just the product or service that they did. Did you ever read Tony Hsieh's book?
Yeah. Delivering Happiness, I think is the name.
Yeah. which is really, if you think about that, how do we deliver happiness?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the whole thing. The product we use currently is shoes, but to do that, but what we do is deliver happiness, because how cool does it feel to have a nice new pair of shoes? And that just happens to be the product that they use. But delivering happiness could be sending flowers to somebody and showing them that you care because they've had a significant loss in their life. Exactly. Could be accepting and welcoming a return because the stress and pressure they're going through in this moment right now, they'll feel a lot happier if they could, like, geez, wow, thank you so much for that. But when your team understand why you do what you do in that sense, and they have that personal connection to that public sense of purpose that we just talked about, that's why your organization doesn't need layers of, because people know how to make right decisions. They know what to say no to, so they know what to say yes to.
And just case in point, yep. I've told that story maybe 500 times on stages around the world.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not the only one who has. Zappos has more than made their money back on that, on free advertising, 10,000 times over.
Yeah.
Just by the stories that are being told by customers and the folklore that is being created, because their customer experience people understood what the mission, vision, brand, and values were, and were empowered to do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They knew the story.
Yeah. And so this is when, once again, when you speak with love to the market can't help but respond in kind. Now, here's everybody sharing and that's the other half what I'm talking about. Like, brand is how the market and consumer thinks and feels about your business. Exactly. When all that folklore is going around, that means people speaking with love about your business. Like, can you imagine this? I remember my time at the Pacific Institute, founded by Lou Tai, so it's based out of Seattle, but they were a personal development company, still around today.
Yep.
And the one story I still remember is that when they were shipping stuff, those back, remember the days we used to have boxes and the cassette decks, and we had to listen cassettes. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So the Pacific Institute Investment and Excellence process that I went through back in early 90s. And Brian, the facilitator, he was saying, that they had this shipment, they had this, these clients in New South Wales where they needed, 20 program boxes, but there was a problem in the shipment, and therefore the boxes weren't going to be delivered in time. So Lou himself packed up 20 boxes, jumped on a plane from Seattle to Sydney, flew with 20 boxes, and was there within 24 hours to deliver the boxes personally.
Unbelievable.
Right? Because for some reason at that time you couldn't ship stuff, but he, as a passenger, he could fly. So he's just packed up and he just got there, landed, gave them that, got the next flight, went back to Seattle. Because
can you imagine how cross-eyed he was?
Yeah. But when you talk about selling an investment in excellence and, finding a way to make things happen, and like the way that he lived his story is the one we were being told how to become the best version of ourselves, how to, to set the intent and then find a way to make things happen and, bring these things to life. And here he's going, oh, sorry, well, we can't get the box there, socially acceptable. People go, oh yeah, okay, delivery problems, we get it. And he's like, no, if you want something to happen, you'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story that they speak to the market was being demonstrated. And to me, like, it's great to have an amazing, compelling story, but you got to be able to back it up. And it is backed up in every single one of those moments. And it is one of the other things I love to talk to organizations about is like that moment at Zappos, that moment at Investment and Excellence, or Pacific Institute. The more moments your organization has, the more momentum it has. The more moments your story has, the more momentum your story has. If you want your organization to have tremendous momentum, create more moments.
And those moments become part of the story.
Correct. And then once again, it's just this compounding, compelling thing. And this is how folklore becomes. And almost a stage where it wouldn't even matter if people believe it to be true or not. It just sounds like it's exactly something they would do regardless if they did it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's what has come out of that organization, because they've allowed those moments to happen. So Ben, we're getting up to the end of time here, mate. Give me 3 things that you think leaders, anyone watching, listening to this, what are the 3 most important things that from the conversation we've had or whatever that people should take away? If you're going to do anything, it's these 3 things. Do it now.
The first thing is leaders need to listen. They need to stop thinking that they know everything, that they understand everything, that they know everything. They need to listen, and they need to listen to various people around the office and be able to be curious. That's number 2. They need to listen. They need to be curious. And they also need to sit there and say, how can I empower my people to be better versions of themselves? Because I think if we can do all those three things, we can give people the reason to want to listen to the stories, to want to embrace the stories, to internalize them, recall them, and retell them. But as leaders, our job is to be at the front end and give people the impetus to want to listen in the first place.
I'm just putting this in here so everyone can have it. So number one, stop thinking you know everything and listen.
Exactly.
Right?
Second thing is be curious.
And thirdly is help your people be the best version of themselves.
Exactly. And here it comes across the bottom.
Absolutely. There we go. I'm putting it into the chat in all the.
Oh, on the perfect in the chat.
Up in all the chat, right? So here's and this is the awesome part of what you just shared there. So from us, our definition of leadership here at Circle Leadership is about leadership's all about helping other people become the best version of themselves, so they can do their life's best work while they're in your care and beyond. And that means I care about you as a human being first and an employee second. That my role is to help you be the best that you can be to do your life's best work. And by the way, you don't need a position or title to do that. So everyone in the organization can demonstrate leadership and lift each other up. The only way to do that is to start listening to each other more and to be asking more questions rather than telling. So whilst it's all about storytelling, it should be initially start with story asking.
Very true.
Right? So let's start story asking so then we can understand what the story is that getting back to your whole point at the beginning where it said, where are we now? Well, story ask. Let's ask what the story is. And then we can understand, does that story match the story that we believe to be true? And where's the gap? And how do we coach?
And how do we circle back the gap? How do we cross the chasm?
And you have to do that with curiosity.
True.
Right. So, mate, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. If people want to get hold of you, want to learn more about you, the work that you do in this world, I know you've got an epic podcast too, and there's some opportunities around that. So please take the last couple of minutes to share that with everybody.
Yeah, the main podcast has been around for the last 5.5 years, and I actually sunsetted December 31st, 2022. It was called the Your Living Brand Live show, and it was 5.5 years, 325 episodes. It will stay forever. It's on every platform you want, but there's a new podcast coming out hopefully by the end of Q1 called B2B Change, Navigating Change in a Changing World. So that's what the new podcast is. But the best way to find me through everything is through yourbrandmarketing.com. You can connect with me through email there, through my LinkedIn. There's links to my podcasts. There's links to everything there. All the information. There's all sorts of free ebooks, etc.
Yeah.
So have a look through yourbrandmarketing.com, and you'll always find everything you need right there.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you also have a massive opportunity for sponsorship of?
Yeah, we're looking for one sponsor for the new podcast. If you go to b2bchange.com/sponsorship, so that letter B, number 2, B, change.com/sponsorship, you'll see the whole sponsorship package. And we're looking for one exclusive sponsor. We want one person. We can help them tell their story, and it's reaching executives in large to enterprise level companies across the world.
Okay, great. It's shown up on a few things. They're going to try again. So b2bchange.com/sponsorship.
You got it.
Yep. Okay, so I'll put the link into the comment section there too. So if anybody does that. Mate, Ben, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with the world. Thank you for the epic work you're doing in this world. We share a common sense of purpose in terms of we all want everyone to have more meaningful lives and do more meaningful work and find that connection to, because, we're at work for 50% of our waking hours in most cases. Wouldn't it be awesome to be part of a compelling story that is being shared with the world and being a part or a character or an actor or a lead role in that? Everyone should be playing a lead role in the story in their organization and finding their own connection, as we would tell any actor to find their connection to that character. And, or a singer to find the connection to the song. So when they sing it with such emotion that the song deserves. But that's each of us finding our own connection to that. And I think just by having that sense of connection to our work, to the story, to whatever it is that we're doing, just makes everyone's lives feel just a little bit better. Imagine if we could just what if we could just make every single 900 million employees on the planet feel just a little bit better about the work they're doing. We could shift the consciousness of a planet, but it all starts with us telling the story from the inside out, doing all those things you shared, and helping those leaders bring that, help their teams bring their own connection to that stuff, and then allowing them to share that with the world. And don't be afraid of that.
I agree. On that note, thank you for sharing your wisdom and helping people, and your audience. Thank you for your audience for actually listening in for an entire hour, whether you're listening to this live or whether you're listening to this on a replay. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you found this valuable. And Dave, thank you for your brilliance. And I think that when we're curious, we listen to each other and we enable each other to succeed, the world becomes a better place.
Yeah. Mate, and we'll leave it at that because that is an epic way to end that conversation. Mate, look forward to catching up again soon. Hopefully the winter's not too bad up there in Vancouver right now. Summer's finally arrived in Australia. We're enjoying some sunshine and some warmth.
Nice.
So I'm going to head out and enjoy it now.
You do that. I'll sit there and go have some dinner.
All right, man. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.